So thank you so much for spurring this class and fleshing it out. We're here at the Loop with a group of moms and families coming into our series called Cat Herding. Isn't it true that what we do as homeschool moms is just try to herd all the cats, manage everyone's life, including our own, and try to find time for self-care. It doesn't always happen well. Most of the time we are victims of lots of different kinds of information, and just trying to weed through that information can kind of fall through the wayside, and we can just find ourselves guessing for the best thing to do or the right things to eat. So it's our goal to help give people tools to make good choices for themselves and really bring the stress level down on their family. When we think about the terms, the effectiveness that we have as homeschool moms, I heard a statistic recently at a state convention that 0% of women feel like they're doing an adequate job as homeschooling parents. So that's obviously an outright lie. When I heard that, I thought of all the moms that I know who are doing an amazing job. I mean, they're the women who make curtains and do all this great stuff, and just, they're quilters. They sew. They know how to do all this cool stuff, and they know how to choose curricula. They know the difference. They help other women. So I knew that, I didn't feel like I was doing a really great job as a homeschool mom, but I knew that 0% statistic was a lie, and I was going to reject it outright. So there are many challenges as homeschooling families, and there are many things that can happen in our bodies that make those challenges a lot harder. So our goal is to touch on many different topics during this cat herding series. Today we're going to talk about girding our loins, which is really code for how to take care of adrenal stress. When you look at the entire endocrine system, or the whole hormonal cascade in the body, starting up in the head with all the different glands of the body, so think about pituitary, pineal, thyroid, thymus, all the way down mammary glands, ovaries, and adrenals, many of us are kind of burning the candle at both ends. So we've experienced all kinds of stress starting in the head, and by the time it gets down to the adrenals, that really is a sign that the body's crying out for help. So some of the ways that you can know that people have adrenal stress is they're craving salty foods. One of the things I notice all the time is if the pupils are as big as dinner plates. Sometimes during different parts of the day, people will just have these gigantic pupils. If you're seeing children with gigantic pupils, chances are that the mom has actually lived off their adrenals during the pregnancy, and you have these little babies that are just high-strung and stressed out. And of course, that's not what we want. We want people to be on an even keel and be able to really rest and sleep really well. Some of the other things that are signs that people are kind of blowing out their adrenals is they wake up between 3:30 and 5:30 in the morning. This is the time that adrenals should be nourished and getting revitalized. So if they're waking you up, then they're really, really struggling. It's kind of like they're knocking on the door saying, please help me, please give me some attention. We'll just, I wanted to just be really informal for this first meeting and really take some advice from different people on what kinds of topics are good going forward. But mostly I wanted this to serve as an introduction to my friend Ashley Laudenslager, who has amazing information about the entire hormonal cascade. So I'm really excited to have this series go forward, and Ashley has just graciously offered to share her information, which is just spot on. I'm so impressed with what this woman knows, and I know we've just scratched the surface. It's true. I mean, oh my goodness, we got a little snippet last week, or a big snippet, and every time she laid out a point and said, oh, we're going to go into that a lot deeper. And I thought, man, we've got to do this a lot more than once, because the truth is that so many people are struggling. They're barely hanging on by their fingernails, and they feel like the wheels are coming off. And personally, when I see people in homeschooling groups thinking they just can't do it, I know that it's a result of the stress. So learning ways to manage that stress is vitally important to our success, not just as homeschooling parents, but as women and as mothers. I always used to look at people who just run their home really well and think, why can't I do that? Why can't I just run my house? Why isn't my house clean? Why isn't my laundry all done? And the truth is that you can accomplish so much more than you would ever imagine when you just kind of cut down the chatter out of your head and give your body the tools to function really well. So for me, my background is in training as a psychotherapist. I've never worked as a therapist. I never wanted to get that licensure and work with chronically mentally ill people. And one of the reasons that I didn't want to do that is because I discovered alternative health while I was studying to get my degree. And I knew I was onto something because the alternatives I was using worked so much better than any other thing or any other approach or any other medication to just turn symptoms off. That now today, that's really what I focus on, is helping people to combat stress and release negative emotional patterns, because when we are approaching a physical issue, we tend to think in our Western mindset that it's just a physical issue. The truth is it's a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual issue. And the emotions are right there in between. They can be a catalyst. If we're having a spiritual issue, it can manifest in physical ways. If we're having an emotional issue, it can as well. But usually when we're having a physical issue, there's definitely an emotional and spiritual component that we really need to look at in order to be well-rounded. And what I found with allopathic care is they're not looking at the three components. So isn't it wise to look at all sides of a problem? So it's funny, I just spent a little bit of time this morning looking at the emotional aspects of adrenal health, and I'll just share some of them with you. I have a few great books here. One of them is Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. I've worked in alternative health for many, many years, gosh, probably 17 years. And it's just been wonderful to see the results when people feed their bodies and get some good natural hormones going, like progesterone. How I always say the little horns that we grow at the top of our head at that time of the month just kind of tamp down, and we think, oh, okay, we can do this. Given all of the different ways that I've learned to detoxify the body and all the different supplements that I've heard about over those years, all my study in nutrition over many, many years, blogging about nutrition, really my personal health started to turn around greatly when I learned about essential oils and other ways to kind of determine the top stressors in the body and address those one by one. It's been a magnificent change, so I love being able to share. So you'll hear me talk about the emotions a lot. I love this book. It's right next to my Bible for a year and a half. This is actually the second copy. The first copy was worn out and fell apart, I'm proud to say. So imagine every thought that you have has a frequency or a vibration. Some people are discerning. They can feel a frequency or feel a vibration, like if the phone rings and you know who it is. That's a really good example. Or if you walk in a room and you can just tell there's been a fight in that room and you just feel it and your hair stand up on end. We are actually designed to live in a certain frequency. And whenever we dip below 200 megahertz, basically disease starts in the body and even death spirals can start. You've seen people who just die of a broken heart, or they're never the same after they lose their job, or they commit suicide after a breakup. So it's really, it's great and wise to guard your heart, but some of that wisdom can be the same as guarding your emotions and keeping your spirits high. So basically, a negative emotion has a frequency, and our organs have a frequency. So, for example, a healthy liver has a very different vibration than a sick liver. And the same is true for adrenals. So what happens in the body is emotions tend to resonate with specific organs in the body. So, for example, according to Chinese medicine, we store grief in our lungs, and anger is stored in the liver. So all of us know examples of like an angry drunk. Well, what's stored in the adrenal glands? The adrenal glands actually store a fear of facing the world, which is so interesting. There's an essential oil that has the opposite frequency, which is myrrh. I love the biblical history of like Queen Esther was anointed with myrrh and hyssop for months before going into meet the king. She couldn't have fear of facing the world, right? I mean, she had an important job to do. She couldn't come into the king and just fall apart and throw all of her problems at his feet. She had to have grace. She had to be effective. She had to be responsible to her people. So even though that situation would make many of us just push the pedal to the metal and make our adrenaline pump out for the entire year, she couldn't do that. She didn't have the luxury. She had to maintain her health, maintain her focus, and protect her adrenal glands, which is what we're wanting everyone to do here. It's funny, the emotion is actually adrenal exhaustion, and knowing a lot of people who are in, stage 3 adrenal fatigue and the things that they go through, it's like everything is a trigger, everything is a hot button. So it's really interesting going through emotional release work with people who, pretty much see threats everywhere. So when I read that the emotion is called adrenal exhaustion, I really understand that because of the experience I have working with different people. As far as the adrenal cortex, so there's a medulla and a cortex when you look at the adrenal gland. The adrenal cortex really controls a lot of mineral balance in the body, so it's kind of even more important than just overall adrenal health because of its intense action in the body. So what are the emotions related to the adrenal cortex? Actually, fear of conflict, aggression, and defenseless. Isn't that amazing? When you think about someone who's defenseless, it almost makes me think of victim consciousness, which is a little bit different, but defenseless. When someone's defenseless, their adrenaline is going to be high because they feel like there's no protection for them. So do you see how on the spiritual side, we know we have divine protection. We know that our spiritual connection can protect us. But on the physical side, if we have adrenal stress, we're going to forget that we have divine protection. So right there in the middle is that emotion. So how beautiful that we can literally kick out and change that negative frequency of defenselessness or fear of facing the world and raise it with something that's biblically validated, that's been used since ancient times. The ancient Egyptians knew and were adept at using anointing techniques. All these cultures smarter than us who didn't rely on this, modern medicine that really looks at one aspect of health. So I just wanted to pass and share my favorite tip for adrenal function, and that is nutmeg essential oil. I don't know what it is about nutmeg. But this is so beautiful. We even have some people who have bad adrenal fatigue. I know, it smells like a snickerdoodle. Right? Like Christmas. Oh, it does. It totally smells like. Oh, it does. Oh my gosh. You can make, speaking of what to do about hormonal health, one of the best things is getting healthy fats, and so we talked about that earlier. My naturopath has trained many, many people in our oils group to take in enzymes, plenty of good fats. So some of us came up with a recipe of just an ounce of raw cream from the dairy that has the live enzymes in it that haven't been homogenated out, a raw egg, and a drop each of nutmeg, ginger, and clove, with some vanilla. Oh my word, it is amazing. It tastes like eggnog. The first time I drank it, I thought, raw egg, I'm gonna gag. So I took the tiniest sip and I was like, oh my gosh, I had to stop myself from just chugging the whole thing and just sip it. It is the best. So, I love knowing ways that people can help protect their adrenal health. Another food that you can consume is just bone broth. Bone broth with pink Himalayan salt. I love bone broth too. It will heal and seal the gut. So when you think about in terms of rebuilding the body, you need enzymes, you need fats, and you need minerals, vitamins and minerals that help break down and reassemble the amino acids into the hormone or the literal physical body. So many of us are just wiped out and starving for minerals. It's shocking to know how bad it is whenever we try to take minerals in. Our food is very deficient, but then even after we take it in, it's just a factor of how much is absorbing down into the cell. So there's just many, many different ways that you can enhance optimal absorption of nutrients. And again, I used to think in terms of physical ways to physically get a lot of vitamins and minerals into the body, but the emotions play a huge part. It's just amazing, and we'll have to go into the emotional impact of how to bring in fats into the body and into the cells in the future, because it's just one of these varied topics. And our hope is that it will be an all-encompassing kind of series on how to take care of hormones. Nobody likes to, have the devil horns pop up or fly off the handle when our kids just want, a drink of water. But I think that's probably happened to all of us, where we have lost it. Mommy's having a day, I'm having a week, or there's not enough chocolate in the world right now, just, leave me alone, do your own laundry. We've all had those times, and, it's so easy to think it's a character flaw. And oh my gosh, I promise it is not a character flaw when we lose our cool. It's just not. There are many things that you can do to help just create hormonal balance in the body, and I love that Ashley knows so many of those things and is willing to teach us. So I'm just going to look at one more resource before we call it a day for today. Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body, has been a phenomenal resource for so many reasons. Basically, you can go through and learn kind of the emotional, spiritual aspect of many different diseases. So, for example, aging problems, alcoholism, bladder problems, bleeding gums, blisters, blood. It goes hepatitis, lung issues, phlebitis. And then, oh my word, this is the best chart, the effect of spinal misalignment. So if you have a vertebrae out, you can look. I mean, right now, I know exactly why I have these specific vertebrae out. Mine are totally related to the heart. So I'm working on opening my heart, releasing grief. And now when I go to the chiropractor, these are all the vertebrae that adjust. Nothing else adjusts, nothing else is out. It's the one where I'm holding that stress. So that frequency, that suboptimal frequency is resonating in our bones. It totally does. So this is just a phenomenal book for helping us kind of pinpoint what's going on. Yeah. Louise Hay, Heal Your Body. Okay. Yeah. And there's a great website that actually encompasses the information from both the Blue Book and Louise Hay's Heal Your Body. So Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils is written by Dr. Carolyn Mean. And you can find both of these put together on theoildatabase.com. It's such a great site. You can search in terms of emotions. You can search in terms of body points or parts of the body that are stressed. Or if you're drawn to a specific essential oil, you can put it in there and tell me, well, what's the emotional link? And it's amazing how people find that they're spot on. The oil you're craving is usually what you need. So as far as adrenals, adrenal problems, and they also address Addison's disease and Cushing disease, which can be a result of prolonged adrenal stress. So guess what Louise Hay says is the probable cause? Defeatism, no longer caring for the self, or profound anxiety. And she gives a new thought pattern or a focus. We know there's power in frequency and there's power in speaking truth over yourself. She says, I love and approve of myself. It is safe for me to care for myself. Gosh, I know. I'm thinking of all the people I know who are having adrenal struggles now or are climbing out of those struggles. And it just can feel so easy to just kind of throw in the towel and say, forget it, I can't do it anymore. The truth is you can. And so I'm just thrilled that we're here doing this series for all the people who can benefit from this